I inherited my country home from my grandfather, who had lived on this 10-acre plot for over 50 years. The jewel of the property was a grove of massive 200-year-old white oak trees planted along the western edge of the land. 2 years ago, Vance bought the adjacent plot of land and built a massive, multi-million-dollar modern mansion. He was an aggressive developer who believed that rules did not apply to people with his net worth. Vance wanted to build a luxury detached guest house and a swimming pool right up against my property line. To maximize his space, he hired a corrupt surveyor to falsify the boundary markers, shifting the line 30 feet into my yard. This false boundary put my grandfather's historic oak grove directly inside his construction zone. By the time I discovered the crew on Saturday morning, 2 of the ancient oaks had already been completely destroyed, and a third was heavily damaged. When I demanded they stop, Vance mocked me. He told me I was a broke country kid who couldn't afford to fight him in court, and that the trees were already gone anyway. He told his crew to keep digging the foundation. Vance assumed I would panic, file a standard property line dispute, and spend years drowning in legal fees while his guest house was completed. He didn't understand that when you destroy someone's heritage, you invite a ruthless retaliation. I immediately called the county sheriff to file an official property damage report, forcing the construction crew to pause for the day. Then I went straight to the county archives. I pulled the original, certified plot maps from 1954, which clearly showed the undisputed boundary line. Vance's surveyor had clearly committed fraud. But I didn't stop there. I contacted a certified master arborist to evaluate the destroyed trees. In my state, there is a legal concept known as timber trespass. If someone cuts down your trees without permission, they are legally liable for the cost of fully replacing those mature trees, not just the value of the lumber. Because these were 200-year-old white oaks, the master arborist calculated the cost to source, transport, and replant mature trees of that exact size. The replacement value was evaluated at an astonishing $150,000 per tree. Furthermore, state law required triple damages for intentional timber theft. Vance was looking at a baseline penalty of $450,000 just for the trees. But the final blow came when I uncovered the zoning restrictions for our specific county watershed. Vance's entire mansion had been built over a protected underground runoff stream. To get his original building permits, he had signed an agreement promising never to clear-cut any deep-root vegetation along the property line, as those exact oak trees prevented massive soil erosion into the local town reservoir. I bypassed the slow-moving local zoning board and sent a massive compliance report directly to the State Department of Environmental Protection, complete with the arborist report, the original 1954 deed, and photos of the destroyed grove. The environmental counter strike was absolute destruction. On Tuesday morning, state environmental protection officers arrived at Vance's property accompanied by state troopers. They issued an immediate emergency stop work order on his entire estate, freezing all construction indefinitely. When Vance tried to scream at the officers, they handed him a formal citation for severe watershed violation and illegal logging. Because he had violated his original building agreement, the state completely revoked the occupancy permit for his main mansion, declaring the entire multi-million-dollar structure legally uninhabitable until the environmental damage was completely mitigated. We went to court 2 weeks later. Vance's expensive lawyers tried to offer me a $20,000 settlement to make the boundary dispute go away. My attorney rejected it instantly and presented the triple damage timber trespass valuation alongside the certified 1954 plat map. The judge was furious at Vance's blatant land grab and ordered him to pay the full $450,000 in damages immediately. To make matters worse for him, the state fined Vance an additional $300,000 for the watershed violation and ordered him to pay for the massive civil engineering costs required to stabilize the eroding hillside where the trees once stood. The financial pressure broke him. Vance's development company was heavily leveraged on debt, and the sudden freeze on his primary asset, combined with nearly $800,000 in immediate legal judgments and fines, triggered a massive liquidity crisis. His company forced him out, and his bank moved to foreclose on his modern mansion just 4 months later. I ended up using the settlement money to purchase Vance's foreclosed estate at a massive discount during the auction. I tore down his half-built guest house, restored the original boundary line, and planted an entirely new grove of young oak trees. Vance wanted to steal 30 feet of my yard, and he ended up losing his entire empire.